Do you want to live a beautiful life that reflects the truth of who you are? Be bold and courageous as you step into your heartfelt desires. How does trusting yourself fully and connecting with your soul's purpose sound? The Unplanned Mom podcast is a potent mix of real-life stories, practical spiritual teachings, and a community to help guide you for eternity. This is the place for inspiration with down-to-earth tools to help you pivot and continue to live your best life beyond your wildest dreams. Here we honor your deepest, authentic truth, embrace motherhood, talk all things money, mindset, and most importantly, miracles. So are you ready to say yes to all of this? If so, then let's dive in. I'm your host, Ashley Simmons, financial coach, mentor, and unplanned mom to 3 amazing girls. I have been praying for you, and I can't wait to dive in, so let's go. Hey friends, just a quick heads up. In case you listened to episode number 25, I want to let you know that this is part 1 of that same interview. If you didn't listen to number 25, this is part 1. We've broken them out into about 20-minute increments for this week so that it can be a little bit more manageable to listen to the entire interview with Dr. Susan Jarmillo as she shares her story of being post-abortive 4 times, learning that she was conceived and raped, just her whole journey and experience from learning about that, overcoming addiction, and then going on to get her doctorate in divinity. So it's an incredible interview. I can't wait for you to take a listen to it. If you want to listen from minute 1 all the way to 121, go back to episode number 25. You'll hear the entire thing on that episode. This is just part 1, and then the rest of the episodes will be broken down again into smaller sections in the following days. So can't wait to hear what you guys think about this episode. So excited to have her on, and happy listening. Hey friends, welcome back to the Unplanned Mom School podcast. I am Ashley Simmons. I'm the founder of the Unplanned Mom School, and I am just so excited to introduce to you one of my near and dear friends, Dr. Susan Jarmillo. I want to just share just this amazing welcome that she has on her page, on her website, and we're going to dive into all of this, but here's really just a snapshot of this woman and what all that she has done and accomplished. So back in 2007, after 35 years of wandering in pain, hardship, and trauma, the results of trying to satisfy self-driven needs, wants, and desires, she was transformed instantly through an encounter with God. With his amazing gifts of unconditional love, grace, and healing, which he offers freely to each and every one of us, God rewrote her heart from the inside out. The very sins that she committed against him, he washed away, releasing her from the guilt, shame, bitterness, and resentment in which she was trapped. And he invited her to wholeness in him, restoring the innocence that she had lost at a young age. Through God's grace, she is now able to share with others the experience she once kept hidden, using these events to minister to their hearts and inviting them to experience deliverance and freedom they may not think is possible. And so Susan, she's an ordained minister under the Assemblies of God. Welcome, Susan. It's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you, Ashley. I just love you so much. And thank you so much for having me on with you today.
Yeah, no, it's totally my pleasure. And for a quick story, I mean, we do know each other. You and I have a long history together. And so I just think that it's so cool how God has brought us back together because we crossed paths. I'm trying to think about this before we hopped on. It was back in maybe 2008? 9?
Yeah, 9. Yeah, somewhere
8,
right
9.
in there.
Yeah,
I just moved back to Missouri from Atlanta.
Yeah.
So we came across each other and God just kind of kept us together.
Yeah, well, I had started my blog and was really interested in just life-affirming work. And I was working at a bank at that time, and I was in the marketing department. And I always had to cut out clippings of newspapers, like where we were running ads. And I saw your story in the paper about your post-abortive care.
Yes.
And so you have just a heart and a story and are just doing so many incredible things. And I can't wait to share with our audience just what exactly you are doing.
Yes, God is good. So I'm so thankful. And I remember you reaching out to me. And ever since then, we've just stayed in touch. And I'm just so super proud of you.
Aw.
And again, it's an honor to be here with you. And I'm just truly grateful for your friendship over the years.
Yeah. Well, likewise, back at
Yeah.
you. I mean, you've helped me through good times, bad times, and everything in between, and still continue to. So I'm very, very thankful.
And you as well. I'm sure I shed many a tears to you.
Uh, Same here. I know. We could probably write a book just between our friendship and things that we know and have experienced. But at the
Right.
end of the day, I mean, we both have we see, I mean, just God's goodness through all of these unplanned moments. I didn't plan on
Yeah.
saying that, but
Yes.
yeah. So I know I'm going to kind of go a little different route. So my background's marketing, advertising for anybody that really doesn't know too much about me. So this chat GPT. So I mentioned this to Susan. We did have a little dialogue right before we hopped on. She hadn't heard of this. So I want to quiz her. So if everybody that's hearing artificial intelligence, all these things that are going on in the world, you can ask basically this bot, you can ask the bot questions. And so I asked the bot a question. And so I want to run through the answers with you and see what you think, if this is true or not. So I asked the bot, what do post abortive women need to hear? And so Chat GPT told me, as an AI language model, I do not have personal beliefs or opinions, but I can provide some general information that might be helpful. These are short. So here's what it says: post abortive women may need to hear is one, that they are not alone, that many women have had abortions. Two, that it is okay to feel a range of emotions after an abortion, such as sadness, guilt, or relief. Three, that healing is possible and there are resources available to help them process their emotions. Four, that they are still valuable and loved. Go bot. Regardless, it says regardless of their decision to have an abortion. Five, that there is no right or wrong way to feel after an abortion, that each woman's experience is unique. Six, that they have the power to take control of their future and make positive choices for themselves. Seven, that they should not feel ashamed or judged for their decision and that everyone deserves compassion and understanding. And eight, that seeking support from trusted friends, family, or a professional can be beneficial. So, Susan, would you agree with the bot, with these eight things that women need to hear after they've had an abortion?
I don't necessarily agree with all of them. But for those of you that don't know, I am post abortive. I had some situations, of course. I found myself pregnant when I was in college and had my first abortion and ended up having two more, as a total of three total. So, when you encounter the situation of finding out that you're pregnant, of course, you have decisions to make.
Mhm.
And many of us come into that place where we're just scared. We don't know what to do. Of course, me different than you, Ashley. I chose differently than you. I had a few other friends that had abortions, and I had reached out to them for some advice. And so that's kind of where I was geared.
Mhm.
I also grew up, in the church. And so, I was taught that abortion was wrong and you don't do those things. So I think when I encountered that situation that I was in originally, I didn't know what to do and I didn't know who to turn to.
Mhm.
So I what I thought I was making the best decision that I could make at the time. But immediately, even before you have an abortion, the shame and the guilt are just right there. The judgment. What are people going to think of me? What is that decision? How am I going to do this? And how am I going to stay in school and have a child?
Yeah.
Now, you
Yeah.
obviously are a great example that you can do both. I think that at the time, I was in a sorority. I, had this social life. I had this persona of who I wanted to portray that I was versus the actions that I was really having. Very few people knew really what I was doing because I call it, living one foot in, one foot out.
Yeah.
I portrayed that I was one person, but I was really living this double life,
Yeah.
and had found myself in a, you know, promiscuous place, growing up, just looking for love, wanting someone to love me. Of course, that relationship that I was in, made the decision, we made the decision that I would have an abortion. So, of course, I went out of state to do that because I thought no one would ever find out. If I just drove, far enough away, it would just go away and be gone.
So,
And unfortunately, that's not how it works.
yeah. So did the guy, you did tell the guy?
I did tell him, I wanted his opinion, but I had already made up my mind
Okay.
because I was just thinking long term, how could I get through college? I would have to quit. And, the relationship that I was in, he was in another state. And so, it's not like we were together every day. So I didn't know what else to do. And
Yeah.
that's what I thought was the thing to do. And also, I wanted my career. I had set out that, I had grown up, unfortunately, in some poverty situations. And I just wanted to be successful. And to me, success was money, the house, the cars, the whatever,
Right.
the marriage.
Yeah.
And that was success to me.
Yeah.
So I was, fighting to get that. And I just, at the time, I didn't want anything in my way. And I thought this child would get in the way of my success. And, um, who else was going to make it happen but me if I didn't make it happen? Right.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I
yeah.
think.
And in my situation, I grew up without a father. We can talk more about that here along the way, but I didn't have someone that I could lean back on. I didn't come from a place of wealth or that I could reach out to someone like I needed help, or I
Mhm.
just didn't feel like I had that. And I certainly did not want to bring shame to my family that here I was, this unwed, pregnant girl.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
had put a persona on myself and just a place of judgment that was going to be my way out.
Mhm. I think when women are listening to this, so many of them are going to relate to that because we all want to better ourselves. I mean, I think most women do, and that's probably, I don't, you're the expert in this. So I know you do a lot of post-abortive care. And I mean, there's so many things I want to ask about, but, um, just going back to that. So it was a decision that you made. You told the dad. Um, do you want to go into the other abortions, or should we? There's still.
Yeah. So, well, I will just say this. I just do want to share this.
Mhm.
I remember feeling like something was weird and strange. And I actually had one of my girlfriends, not at school. She was in my hometown, about 30 minutes away. She brought me a pregnancy test and I took it
Okay.
and it was positive. And I remember calling her going like, what am I going to do? So, I was conversing more with my girlfriend than him because I felt like I needed to make a decision
Yeah.
before then. And there's some guys out there that never have a say,
Mhm.
because, or they never know because the person, that young lady or that woman makes that decision without conversing with them. So by the time I had that conversation with him, I kind of knew what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And so, that was the decision. And that,
Yeah.
so I found that abortion clinic actually in that particular state where he was, and it was within a couple hours of where he lived, and drove over the weekend and did it over the weekend while I was in college, not telling anyone, of course, other than my girlfriend, and he knew
Yeah.
what was going on. The second abortion was with the same guy. I
Okay.
ended up graduating from college. I moved to where he was, got a job, and found myself within a year pregnant again.
Mhm.
And, we weren't in any place to get married, or, you know, we had, I guess, trouble in our relationship. We weren't headed towards marriage. And that wasn't something that we even talked about. Like
Yeah.
looking back now, I'm thinking, my gosh, we didn't even talk about like, let's just get married.
Yeah.
We didn't do that. It was okay. You know what to do. Um, he traveled for his work. So I found myself in an abortion clinic you didn't even know it was an abortion clinic. It looked like an office building and it had tinted windows. And I went by myself.
Oh, wow.
And completely different situation than the first time because he went with me. This time I was like, I'm fine. I'm tough. I'll go by myself. And I checked in and they put me in the waiting room and they're like, do you have someone with you? And I said, I don't. I was like, can't I just stay here by myself? Can't I just sleep off
Mm-hmm.
the drugs? Will you just allow me to stay here and I'll just drive myself home?
Yeah. Did they let you?
They did.
Okay.
They did. And honestly, it was horrific. Just the whole experience was a totally different situation. I was on a metal table.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a dark, those back alley type places. It was something more like that. And, just a horrific experience.
Yeah.
And I, laid on that table. They left me there for a few hours. And once I was coherent enough to get up and kind of get something in my body,
Mm-hmm.
I just acted like I had it together. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm out of here. And they let me go.
Oh, wow.
And, looking back, it's horrible. Horrible. Who allows someone to, it's a surgical abortion. So it's not like,
Now, were both of these in your first trimester?
yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, do you remember? I mean, so you're talking about the second experience laying on the metal table, which sounds just horrific in and of itself. And then, yeah, not, them not truly caring, letting you leave on your own. Do you remember the first one? Or do you think you kind of blocked it out? Like you're just trying to
You know,
not experience it again in your brain?
well, I think at that time, I think I knew what to quote expect.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, for me, each experience was different. I think my heart gotten harder every
Mm.
time. I think I became more, honestly, just, I was tough. I could handle it. And, I've had one. What's another one? It's no big deal.
Mhm.
And it was a big deal. And every time it just took me to a different place.
Yeah.
And realizing that not only my heart was being hardened, but my soul, my mind, my experiences. And, any trauma that we experience, it's stored in our brain. So,
Mhm.
as much as you think you can't remember it or you're like pushing it aside or pushing
Mhm.
it somewhere, it's still in you.
Yeah.
And it affects you in ways that you may not even realize, even through sounds or triggers.
Yeah.
So you can have
Yeah.
triggers. Yeah. So, but again, I'm like, I'm fine. I'm good to go. Had my cookie, had my juice, whatever that was that they gave me. And I just shook it off and acted like it was no big deal. Um,
So at this point, God hadn't really entered your life yet. You knew about God, you grew up in the church, but you still wanted to be the career woman, have the money, have the things, have the life that you didn't have growing up. That's where that's where your priority was instead of
yeah, that's
God.
definitely my priority.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I grew up in the church and I sang all the songs. I was in choir. I have a wonderful family.
Mhm.
But I was just in a place, I think, growing up without a father, never really knowing my identity. And I
Mhm.
didn't really know my identity through the Lord, through Christ.
Mhm.
I mean, I knew all that. I learned Bible verses. I went to church camp. I was in church, Sunday night,
Yeah.
Wednesday,
I
um,
didn't know that extent that
yeah, I
was
mean,
your
I was
upbringing.
yeah, I
Okay.
mean, that's how I don't know any different, but as I started growing up, going into middle school, high
Mhm.
school, things started to change and I was always angry. Well, now that I started having these abortions, I mean, I was really angry. And
Mhm.
I couldn't figure out, was I angry because
All right, that concludes part one of this long, amazing, and incredible interview. So just follow along, hit the next episode to play and listen, or if you're going to go do something, or just know next in the queue is going to be part 2 of this incredible interview with Dr. Susan Jarmillo. All right, my sweet mamas, if you are tuning in and have a friend's name that just keeps popping up in your mind right now, then go ahead, grab the link, copy and paste it, and shoot them a quick text and just tell them that you were thinking of them. After all, we're all here to help each other, and if this episode resonated with you, there's a pretty good chance that something in it will resonate with them as well. This show is for you, so do me a solid, go ahead, share it so you can share it with that one person that comes to your mind, and we can spread the love to our sisters. And if you really, really loved it, it would mean the world to me if you would leave a review. All right, my sweet friends, thanks so much for tuning in. I will catch you next week. If you need any more inspiration between now and then, come on over and check us out on TikTok. See you soon.